It's Bushmaster 7, go ahead.
Roger, we have a black SUV or bongo truck picking up the bodies. Request permission to engage.
Bushmaster 7, roger. This is Bushmaster 7, roger, engage.
1-8, engage. Clear. Come on. Clear. Clear. We're engaged.
Why do it? Well, there's two reasons. One, because it's fun to kill people. If you've been in that environment, removed from all the effects of killing people for a long time. It's a video game, you want to get a high score. The other is they brag after a kill streak about how many people they killed. They go back to base and go, hey, killed 13 today.
Oh yeah, look at that, right through the windshield. Alright, there was approximately 4 to 5 individuals in that truck, so I'm counting about 12 to 15. Oh yeah, look at those dead bastards. Nice. 2-6, Crazy Horse 1-8.
When the ground troops arrive, they see that there are children in the car.
Oh, it's their fault for bringing their kids to a battle. That's right.
After viewing the video hundreds of times, it became almost an obsession to get the identity of the people there. We knew the identity of Namir Nureldin and Seit Sommer, the Reuters employees. But for me, it was important to establish the identity of the other people there, especially the children in the minivan. We decided that it was worthwhile to go there and interview them.
It turns out that the children survived the attack. Hrafnsson flies to Baghdad in search of more facts.
Það gerist hér á þessu horni í Al-Amil-hverfinu í austurhluta Bagdad 12. júlí 2007.
He traces the whereabouts of the children and shows the helicopter film to the victim's family.
يعني يشيل أطفال بالسيارة يعني مسلح هذا ويشيل عائلة يعني ينزل يشوفه يفتح الباب غير هو كاميرات عنده طيار وهاي غير يشوف يعني مشاعره.
I think we could fairly establish fairly well from a journalistic point of view that the reason why the minivan was there was basically a coincidence that the driver stumbled up on the scene. He was driving his kids to a tutorial.
يعني زوجي ما سوى شيء غلط، نقض جريح لأنه هو يساعده، بس كانوا أطفاله وياه بالسيارة. يعني شنو مشاعره؟ شو أقول؟ شنو ذنبه هو من ضربوه وجهاله وياه بالسيارة؟ يعني ما لهم كل ذنب.
On the 5th of April 2010, WikiLeaks publishes the collateral murder film. The impact is no less than extraordinary.
Disturbing footage apparently showing civilians being killed by the US military in Iraq.
It was leaked from within the defense community to a website.
Ja, det var på sajten Wikileaks som den här kontroversiella videon lades ut. Wikileaks har kallats en maktfaktor i det nya medielandskapet. Och vissa menar att det här är...
By putting all their resources into the helicopter video, WikiLeaks have managed to attract the attention of some of the biggest players in the news business. This is precisely what Assange needs to help him handle the rest of the leaked US material.
I had been looking at this release and studying it and understanding how to come up with a way to deal with such a tremendously large volume of material that would actually not simply drown any one organization.
Assange proceeds to contact the New York Times, The Guardian and Der Spiegel. He manages to persuade the chief editors of these globally respected papers to publish his material in a coordinated fashion, with Assange pulling the strings.
What is new is us enforcing cooperation between competitive organizations that would otherwise be rivals to do the best by the story, as opposed to simply just doing the best by their own organization.
In late July 2010, the Afghanistan reports are published at the same time and day.
En En av militärhistoriens största informationsläckor väcker starka reaktioner.
Well, one of the biggest leaks in US military history has exposed several cover-ups over the war in Afghanistan.
The real story of this material is that it's war. It's one damn thing after another.
The publication of the material is met with praise as well as strong criticism.
The Defense Department demands that WikiLeaks return immediately to the U.S. government all versions of documents obtained directly or indirectly from the Department of Defense databases or records.
For the first time, WikiLeaks are now facing criticism that they find hard to respond to. The material includes the names of civilian Afghanis, putting them at risk of being targeted by the Taliban.
The battlefield consequences of the release of these documents are potentially severe and dangerous.
Mr. Assange can say whatever he likes about the greater good he thinks he and his source are doing, but the truth is they might already have on their hands the blood of some young soldier or that of an Afghan family.
Releasing classified material can be very risky, but Assange says that the end justifies the means.
We would have had to have released all this material without separating out any of it, or released none. The value, the extraordinary value of this historic record to the progress of that war and its potential to save lives outweighs the danger to innocence.
WikiLeaks now takes steps to avoid making the same mistake again. Their next publication, 400,000 military reports from the Iraq War, are painstakingly edited and names removed. They also start reinforcing their network of experienced journalists.
Hey. Okay, so spicy
How are you?
Ian Overton is editor of the independent London-based Bureau of Investigative Journalism, who are now going to analyse the material and produce their own documentaries.
It was a frantic rush of getting the best people we could on board, and we drew up a team of 25 people over a weekend, and my phone went red hot calling people.
It was Saturday night in the middle of August, and about sort of 5 or 6 of us at the Bureau met with Julian. About an hour later, I ended up sort of leaving the place with a USB stick full of 400,000 classified military documents.
The material is essentially an encyclopedia of this war, with reports issued day by day, hour by hour, corpse by corpse.
Absolutely unfiltered. These are the reports written by people on the ground straight afterwards. It's kind of the day-to-day war through their eyes. And that's new. We haven't been able to do that before, ever, really.
The material tells of tens of thousands of civilian casualties, figures that the US have withheld to date. And the widespread practice of torture that the US said they'd put a stop to is still being practiced by their Iraqi allies.
I think there are stories that cause you, to be filled with grief.
Some are incredibly harrowing. I mean, you do have children tortured to death or shot in front of parents, and it's not material you can read and not be affected by.
When I was reading the reports, you read a young American soldier writing in a very, very bureaucratic, anodyne, sterile way about a father who's driving his children back home, and he's going too fast, and they open fire at the car. And the father, fearing that his children will be hit, calls all his children to lie on the floor. All of the children are killed, 3 children. And the way it's written up is, it's called an escalation of force. It's not an escalation of force, it's a killing. It's horrific. question, is anything truly new in war? War is hell. Awful things happen. And what these logs tell us is that war is hell. They don't hide from the truth. They're not spun by a military spin doctor talking in an air-conditioned conference room in the green zone. This is visceral, unequivocal death written in raw detail.
109,000 lives lost over the course of these reports. We're all doing what we can in something so huge that people can and hopefully will study this data for years. This is worth telling, this is worth getting out there.
The lack of respect for human life runs like a common thread through the material. These images are of a helicopter crew who have just received orders to bomb a building where 3 enemy soldiers are thought to be hiding.
If you'd like Crazy Horse 1A to put up missile on that building.
A passerby suddenly turns up. But the crew don't wait.
You lost a missile.
The crew could have waited until the man had passed. This is perhaps a measure of how human life was valued in Baghdad. Private cars being pursued by an attack helicopter. The driver gets out of the car and holds his arms up in a gesture of surrender. The more horrific the discovery the investigators in London make, the more they get the feeling of being threatened. It gradually becomes obvious that someone's watching their office.
I do know that I'm being listened into and monitored by forces, I don't know. I've received strange text messages from anonymous sources. I've received death threats, and they're not very nice, clearly. And particularly the one that talked about my children. I just think that was a bit unnecessary.
There's op-eds in the Washington Post saying that our personnel should be kidnapped from Europe. Our sources, one alleged source, executed. Similar statements by right-wing members of the US Congress.
In Washington, the influential public figure Christian Hrafnsson is agitating for the indictment of Wikileaks members, saying they should be treated as terrorists.
There also has to be a clear punishment for people who engage in what I would consider a form of espionage, a form of political warfare. It's not an act of journalism or transparency, but an act of political war against us.
The US ups its efforts to stop WikiLeaks. The payment service provider's money brokers closed down WikiLeaks' account. American hackers suspected of having links to WikiLeaks are detained, questioned, and have their computers confiscated.
At the end of the day, things involving the web, I think you find, are less mysterious and new than may meet the eye at first. If you just go beyond, I'd say, the surface, you'll find telecommunications companies that are hosting the servers or hosting the companies that in turn host this information and have made this possible. You'll find banks that provide banking services to these people. You'll find landlords who provide rent to the individuals involved. So to that extent, I'm pretty sure you can peel back the onion and find exactly what this organization is, where it conducts its activities, and which jurisdiction it's subject to most directly.
However, the stronger the attacks, the greater the support WikiLeaks receive. Julian Assange has been without a fixed address for several years, but wherever he lands, activists are on hand to offer him a place to sleep and their services free of charge.
People love the idea of an out-of-control investigative journalist who's trying to take on governments. The story